Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The room sparkled with soft gold and ivory decorations, delicate fairy lights weaving around pastel-colored flowers. Laughter echoed through the large event hall as Leona, glowing in a satin-white cocktail dress, sat with her legs crossed and eyes shimmering with joy. To the future Mrs. Walker, someone shouted, raising a glass of champagne. Leona blushed as her friends cheered. Her fingers played with the edge of her glass as she scanned the room, every face radiated warmth and celebration. The girls had done an incredible job organizing this. It was the kind of day every bride dreamed of. Okay, Chanel called out, clapping to get everyone's attention. She stepped forward, her red heels clicking against the wooden floor, a wide grin on her perfectly painted lips. I'd like to say something. The room settled. Leona's heart swelled. Chanel had been her best friend since they were teenagers, through heartbreaks, exams, their first jobs, and now this. She braced herself for a funny but loving roast. I've known Leona since we both had bad eyebrows and even worse taste in boys, Chanel began, earning soft laughter. But even then she had this fire in her. Determined, kind, loyal to a fault. And when she met Ty, I saw something in her shift. A calm, a sparkle. I didn't think anyone could meet her standards, but he did. Leona smiled through tear-brimmed eyes. So to you, Leona, Chanel raised her glass. May your love be louder than any fear. May your laughter never fade. And may no one ever doubt the strength of your heart. I love you. Everyone clapped. Leona rose and wrapped Chanel in a hug, whispering, that was perfect. Thank you. Chanel squeezed her back. You deserve everything good. An hour passed in a blur of games, photo sessions, and gifts. Leona posed with her bridesmaids, unwrapped customized robes, and cut a layered vanilla cake decorated with edible pearls. But amid the joy, her mind wandered. She hadn't seen him all day, and that was intentional. The no contact before the wedding tradition was silly to her, but he insisted. Said it would make the moment she walked down the aisle more magical. Still, she missed him. She stepped outside to the balcony, sipping her water as the breeze rustled the chiffon of her dress. Her eyes traveled across the neighborhood. Ty's apartment was just 2 streets away. He had said he was spending the evening alone, preparing his vows, maybe watching a movie. On impulse, she turned back inside, grabbed a box of leftover cupcakes, and walked up to her cousin Tonia. Hey, I'll be right back. Just going to surprise Ty with these. Tonia smiled. Ah, you romantic. Don't be long, we're doing a video montage soon. Leona nodded. 2 minutes. She slipped into her car and drove through the quiet, familiar roads. The streetlights shimmered, casting soft shadows. As she pulled into Ty's driveway, she smiled. This little surprise would be the cherry on top of a perfect day. She didn't bother knocking. Ty had given her a spare key weeks ago with a wink and the words, "My home is yours too." The living room was dimly lit, the TV screen paused on a Netflix show. A half-eaten sandwich sat on the coffee table. But something felt off. She stood still, listening. Laughter. A woman's voice. Upstairs. Her heart beat a little faster, not from suspicion but from curiosity. Maybe his sister dropped by, she muttered, clutching the cupcake box tighter. She climbed the stairs slowly, the giggles becoming clearer. A soft thud, then a low chuckle, Ty's laugh. She reached the bedroom door. Her hand trembled as it touched the handle. Should I knock? No, it's Ty. It's my Ty. My fiancé. She turned the knob and gently pushed the door open. Time stopped. There, in the middle of the room, was Chanel. Her robe hanging loose, barely covering her. Her legs were folded under her on the bed, her hair tousled, her lipstick smudged. Ty stood beside the bed. Shirtless. Holding a glass. Laughing. They both froze. Leona's breath caught. The cupcakes fell from her hands, crashing onto the carpet, frosting splattering like blood on silk. Ty's eyes widened. Leo, wait. Chanel didn't scream. Didn't cover her face. She just slowly adjusted her robe, her expression unreadable. Leona, she said softly. It's not what it looks like. The words were knives. Leona stepped back. Her mind tried to understand, to make it a dream, a prank, a misunderstanding, but her eyes had already written the truth. She didn't speak. She turned. Down the stairs. Out the door. Her legs felt numb, her throat tight. The night air hit her like ice. She got into her car and drove, somewhere, anywhere. Her hands shook on the wheel, but she didn't stop. Back at the shower, laughter and music carried on. People toasted. Someone looked around and asked, "Where's Leona?" No one knew. And Leona wasn't the same anymore. Leona's car engine hummed in the silence of the night. She had no idea where she was driving. The streets blurred past, lit by streetlights and her tear-smeared vision. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. She didn't feel her phone buzzing in her clutch. Didn't hear the vibration under the soft hum of her car. Her heart was louder than anything else. She pulled over near a quiet gas station and exhaled a shaking breath. It was like her soul had just witnessed its own funeral. She didn't cry, not yet. The tears were too proud to fall. Her phone buzzed again. "Ty, Leona please? I can explain." "Chanel, please call me. It's not what it looks like." She turned the phone off. Not what it looked like. She saw them with her own eyes. The only thing missing was an applause track. Slowly, Leona opened the car door and walked into the cold night, leaning on the hood, eyes staring up at the blank sky. She whispered, "God, why now?" A soft breeze lifted the ends of her hair. She closed her eyes. The silence mocked her. Suddenly, her phone turned back on by itself, accidentally pressed in her purse. A new notification popped up. A text from Tonia. "Where are you? Everyone's looking for you. Your mom just called." Leona sighed and got back in the car. She couldn't go back to the party. Not like this. Not with her chest burning and her future erased in one glance. She thought about her apartment, but it felt too familiar. Too full of wedding prep and shared memories. Then she remembered the message. One she'd ignored earlier this week. "Tessa, if you ever want to come home, my door's open. No questions." Leona blinked. She hadn't spoken to her sister in months. But suddenly, it was the only door that made sense. She started the car. And drove toward home. Back in the event hall, the bridal shower buzzed with energy. The photo booth clicked. The DJ turned up the tempo. No one noticed the bride had vanished. Chanel returned, acting calm, blending back into the crowd. She accepted hugs, made excuses. "She just went to get some air," she told one curious bridesmaid. "She'll be right back." But her hand trembled when she reached for her glass. She slipped into the restroom and locked the door. Her reflection stared back, guilt dancing in her eyes. "What have you done, Chanel?" she whispered. Across town, Leona reached her apartment, numb. She walked inside, shut the door and leaned against it. Her vision darted across the room. The dress hanging on the rack, the gift boxes, the framed photo of her and Ty laughing on a beach. A vision of love. Now a lie. She picked up the frame and hurled it across the room. Glass shattered. So did the illusion. Then, slowly, she began to rip down the ribbons. The guest list. The to-do lists. The vision board. By the time she stopped, the apartment looked like a memory had been murdered inside it. She sat on the floor, gasping. That's when the doorbell rang. She didn't move. It rang again. "Leona, it's me, Chanel." Leona opened the door just enough to see her. Robe gone, now in jeans and a white top, like she was trying to wash away what had happened. "Leona, please. Let me explain." "Explain?" Leona's voice cracked. "What exactly are you here to explain? The robe? The way you laughed with him? Or the fact that I trusted you with every part of my life, including him?" Chanel looked down. "It was a mistake. I don't know. He was drunk. Lonely. I was too." Leona's eyes flared. "You were in my bridal shower 2 hours ago, Chanel. Drinking champagne to my future. Then you climbed into his bed. That's not a mistake. That's betrayal." Tears formed in Chanel's eyes. "I didn't mean." "No," Leona cut in. "You meant every second of it." And she slammed the door in her face. Leona didn't sleep that night. She packed a bag. Cried only once. By sunrise, she was on a bus heading home. Tessa opened her front door and gasped. "Leona?" Her little sister stood with dark circles under her eyes, no makeup, hair messy, holding a duffel bag. "Can I stay?" she asked. Tessa didn't ask a single question. She just pulled her into a hug and whispered, "Come inside." Leona walked into the home she hadn't visited in nearly a year. Same brown sofa. Same sunflower curtains. Same scent of cinnamon and books. "You hungry?" Tessa asked. Leona shook her head. "I just want to sleep." Her old bedroom was untouched, still painted lilac with posters of Maya Angelou and Lauryn Hill. She fell onto the bed and curled up like a child. Tessa peeked in later with a mug of tea. "I don't know what happened, but I'm here." Leona nodded, eyes barely open. "Thank you." Back in the city, the buzz had started. The guests whispered about her disappearance. Ty told people she was just overwhelmed. Chanel? She disappeared from the group chats. The internet didn't stay silent long. One of the bridesmaids leaked a vague tweet. If your man and your best friend go quiet at the same time, run. By evening, rumors swirled. But Leona? She was finally asleep, for the first time in days. When Leona woke up, it was almost 11 a.m. Her body felt heavy, but her heart, lighter. She was far from the noise, far from the betrayal. Downstairs, she found Tessa setting up breakfast. You always made the fluffiest eggs, Leona said, trying to smile. Tessa turned. And you always burnt the toast. They laughed, a little too loud, a little too long. It was the first sound of healing. Does Mom know I'm here? Leona asked between bites. Tessa hesitated. She does. She said you made your bed and now you have to lie in it. Same old, same old. Leona sighed. I figured. Forget her. You've got me, Tessa said, squeezing her hand. Later that day, Leona sat on the porch watching kids ride bikes on the street. Her phone was still off. The world could wait. She pulled out an old shoebox from her closet, college letters, birthday cards, and a journal. One she hadn't opened in years. She flipped through and landed on a page. Sometimes I wonder if Chanel actually likes me, or if she just likes what I have. The words sent a chill down her spine. It had always been there. The quiet competition. The mimicry. The flirting with boys Leona liked. But she excused it all in the name of loyalty. Until now. Suddenly, the betrayal felt older than she thought. It had roots. And Leona was ready to dig them out. By the third day at Tessa's, Leona's phone had 62 unread messages. She didn't open any of them. Instead, she sat by the window most mornings with a cup of tea, watching the world go on without her. Her old neighborhood buzzed with quiet gossip. Mothers leaned on gates, whispering. Former classmates sent passive text. So sorry, girl. Hope it's not true. Is it really Chanel? He looked so loyal too. Some messages dripped with pity. Others, curiosity. And a few, pure judgment. She finally turned her phone on. Instagram notifications flooded in. Her name had started trending locally after a popular gossip page posted a blurry photo of her bridal shower with the caption. Bride disappears mid-shower. Best friend and fiancé now, unavailable for comments. Eyes. Leona stared at the screen, then tossed her phone aside. You okay? Tessa asked, leaning against the doorframe. Leona nodded slowly. They're eating it up. Well, let them. You lived it. That makes your voice the only one that matters. Leona looked up. That's the problem. I'm not even sure what I'd say. Tessa stepped closer and placed something in Leona's lap, her college journal. Then start by telling yourself. Leona sat cross-legged on her childhood bed, flipping through the pages of her old journal. The handwriting was neater than younger. She stopped at an entry dated April 6, 2014. Chanel wore the same dress I told her I bought for the awards night. She laughed and said it was just coincidence. I didn't argue. Maybe I'm just sensitive. Leona exhaled sharply. She had dismissed it as childish insecurity at the time. Another page. Ty asked if I ever noticed Chanel looking at him weird. I laughed. I said no. He said he was probably imagining it. Her hands trembled. She was building a life with people who had shown her their shadows long ago, but she refused to look. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Tessa peeked in. Want to get out of the house? Leona blinked. Where? There's a local charity event tonight. I signed up to help serve food. Could use a wing woman. Leona hesitated. The idea of being around people made her stomach tighten. But then again, staying indoors meant sinking deeper into her thoughts. All right, she said. Let me change. That night, they arrived at a small community hall bustling with volunteers. Children laughed, music played softly in the background. Over here, someone called. A tall, warm-eyed man walked toward them, smiling. This is Malik, Tessa said. He's the coordinator. Leona, she said, extending her hand. Their eyes met for a second longer than expected. Nice to meet you, he said, voice deep and gentle. For the first time in days, Leona felt something stir. Not butterflies. Just calm. Volunteering turned out to be surprisingly therapeutic. Leona handed out food, cleaned tables, and helped children with coloring books. She wasn't the runaway bride here. Just Leona. Malik moved through the space with quiet strength, offering smiles and jokes in equal measure. He didn't ask about her ringless finger. Or the tiredness in her eyes. During a break, they sat beside each other on a bench. First time here? he asked. Yeah, she replied, sipping juice from a paper cup. You've got a natural way with kids. They adore you already. Leona smiled. They're easier to trust than adults. He glanced at her. Something tells me that line's loaded. She laughed softly. You have no idea. He didn't push. Just nodded. Later that night, as they packed up the last trays, Malik turned to her. We do this every Saturday. If you ever want to escape the noise, you're welcome. Leona looked at him. Really looked. Something about his presence didn't feel like a threat or a rebound. Just felt safe. I'll think about it, she said. Driving home, Tessa teased her. So, Malik, huh? Leona shook her head. Not like that. But in her chest, the first light since the betrayal flickered to life. The knock came on a Sunday morning. Leona was folding laundry when she heard it. Tessa was out. She opened the door halfway and froze. In jeans and a rumpled shirt, eyes tired. His mouth parted, unsure whether to speak or kneel. Leona. She didn't reply. Her heart pounded in her ears. I needed to see you. Please. 5 minutes. She opened the door wider. Not out of kindness, just closure. He stepped in and looked around like he didn't belong there. He didn't? I messed up, he said. Silence. I panicked. The wedding, the pressure. I felt trapped. Chanel was there. It just happened. Leona crossed her arms. It didn't just happen, Ty. That's not how betrayal works. She came on to me. You were always so perfect. She wasn't. I don't know what I was thinking. Leona's eyes narrowed. So it's my fault now? No. No, I mean, he stuttered, I was scared. You were becoming everything I wasn't. You had purpose. I was just drifting. She tilted her head. Then you should have let me go instead of sleeping with my best friend. He stepped forward. I still love you. That broke something in her. No, Ty. You loved the version of me who forgave easily. That woman's gone. A voice thundered behind him. Get out of my house. It was their mother. She had arrived unannounced and heard enough. Ty turned stunned. I set out, she repeated, face red with fury. He stumbled backward. I just needed. Not here. Not ever again. He left. Leona collapsed onto the couch. Her mom sat beside her, uncharacteristically silent. After a while, she whispered, I didn't like him anyway. Leona didn't expect to hear from Chanel ever again. But a few nights later, her phone vibrated with a voice note. Her thumb hovered over the play button. Against her better judgment, she tapped it. Chanel's voice was ragged, tired, shaky. Leona, I know you hate me. I hate me too. Ty left. He said he never wanted me, he was just hurting. And now, I'm pregnant. Leona's breath caught. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I never wanted to steal your life. I just wanted something that felt like love. She ended with, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I ruined everything. Leona stared at the wall. Her heart was torn, again. Was it karma? Was it manipulation? She sat with it for a long time, then reached for a notebook and pen. She didn't write Chanel back. She wrote to herself. Dear Leona, you are not responsible for other people's brokenness. You didn't fail. You were failed. And your peace is not negotiable. She closed the notebook and pressed it to her chest. For the first time she cried, but not from pain. From release. Leona stood in front of the mirror, scissors in hand. Her fingers hovered near the ends of her long hair. Tessa stood behind her, arms crossed. You sure you want to do this? She asked. Leona nodded slowly. I need to see someone new in that mirror. Someone who isn't waiting for someone else to define her. Snip. The first chunk fell to the floor. Then another. Tessa gasped. Girl, you're brave. Leona smiled for the first time in weeks. No, I'm free. By the time she was done, her shoulder-length curls framed her face like a crown. She looked fresher. Lighter. The next day she returned to the community center. Malik was stacking donated books when she walked in. He looked up. Whoa. Leona laughed. It's just hair. He shook his head. No, it's a statement. Throughout the day they worked side by side. He didn't ask why she cut it. He just smiled each time their eyes met. Later, as they organized art supplies, a small girl tugged on Leona's sleeve. Are you a teacher? No, sweetheart, Leona said gently. Just someone who used to forget how special she was. The little girl tilted her head. You look like a superhero. Leona blinked, and for the first time in a long while, believed it. It was a Wednesday afternoon when Malik found her in the center's garden. watering flowers with quiet intent. "Hey," he said. "Hey," she replied. He pulled out a flyer from his back pocket and handed it to her. "We're hosting a girls' workshop this Saturday. Self-worth, confidence, all that. I want you to speak." Leona's eyes widened. "Me? No way. I'm not ready." "You've been through fire and came out softer, not bitter. That's exactly the voice they need." She hesitated, then asked, "What would I even say?" "Start with the truth," he replied. "The rest will follow." That Saturday, Leona stood in front of 15 girls between ages 12 and 18. Her palms were sweaty, her voice shaky. "My name is Leona," she began. "And I used to think love meant sacrifice. I gave so much of myself to people who didn't deserve it. But I've learned, your worth doesn't come from who loves you. It comes from who you are when no one's clapping." The room was silent. Then slow claps turned into loud applause. One girl wept. Another came up to hug her. A woman in the back took photos and scribbled in a notebook. Later that evening, Leona got a DM from a Lagos-based NGO. "We saw your story. We'd love to invite you to speak at our Women's Empowerment event." Leona stared at the screen, stunned. Her heartbreak was becoming a platform. The event in Lagos was held at a small theater packed with women of all ages. Leona stood backstage in a soft pink blouse, clutching her notes. Malik had come along for support. "You've got this," he whispered. She walked out, heartbeat racing. Cameras clicked. Spotlights beamed. "My name is Leona Teyo," she began. "1 year ago I almost got married. Then I opened the wrong door. Or maybe, the right one." Nervous laughter rippled across the audience. "I found my best friend in my fiancé's arms. I lost 2 people I thought were my forever. But I gained something I never knew I was missing, me." She paused. "I used to chase validation. Now I choose peace. I choose boundaries. I choose healing." The applause was thunderous. Later, reporters approached her for interviews. Influencers shared her story. Her follower count doubled in a day. Chanel vanished from all platforms. Ty's profile became private. Leona? She found herself trending again, but this time not as a scandal. As a voice. The next morning she posted a video from her hotel room. "Dear women everywhere, if someone makes you feel small, remember, your strength is louder than their betrayal." The comments flooded in. "This healed something in me. I left my toxic relationship today because of this." And somewhere in the background, Leona smiled through quiet tears. She had become her own rescue. Leona sat in her new workspace, sunlight streaming in, soft lo-fi music playing in the background. She was drafting a talk for an upcoming seminar when her phone buzzed. Unknown number, it's Chanel. She stared at the screen. Her heart didn't pound this time. Just a faint buzz of curiosity. Another message followed. "He left me. The baby isn't his. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." That was it. No long paragraphs. No pleading. Just 6 broken sentences from someone who once knew all her secrets. She stared at it for minutes. Then she locked her phone, walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of mango juice and sat back down. There was no anger. No need to reply. No satisfaction either. Just silence and freedom. Later that day, Malik noticed her quiet demeanor. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I got a message from Chanel." He paused, letting her speak. "She's hurting. But that pain isn't mine to carry." He smiled faintly. "That's growth." That night, Leona lit a candle, opened her journal and wrote. "Closure isn't always a door swinging shut. Sometimes it's choosing not to open it again." She closed the journal and exhaled. Whatever storm Chanel was facing now, it no longer involved her. Weeks later, Leona received a formal letter from her alma mater, her old university. They were hosting a Women in Leadership Week, and she had been invited to speak. Tessa shrieked when she read the letter. "Girl, you are making waves." Leona chuckled. "It feels surreal." Malik grinned. "I hope they're ready for the storm you're about to bring." When she arrived on campus, memories flooded her. The lecture halls, the old library, the bench where she and Chanel used to eat suya and laugh about boys. Now she stood at the entrance of the main auditorium, once the same stage where Chanel was crowned most influential female student. It was poetic. Leona adjusted her blazer, took a breath and stepped inside. The hall was packed. She walked up to the podium. This time she didn't bring notes. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice clear. "When I was a student here, I believed success meant being liked, approved and applauded. But now I know." True power is when you no longer need any of that to feel whole. The students leaned in. I lost people I loved, but I found the parts of myself I abandoned to please them. That's what real leadership looks like, leading yourself first. The room erupted in applause. After the event, a young woman approached her in tears. Your story saved me. I was engaged to someone who made me feel small. I left last week. Leona hugged her. And in that moment she realized, this wasn't about revenge or reputation. It was about legacy. Leona stood at the doorway of her new apartment, a modest third-floor unit tucked away in a quiet part of town. The paint was fresh, the curtains sheer, and the air smelled like lavender and clean beginnings. This is it, she whispered, clutching the keys in her palm. Tessa helped bring up the last box. You really did it. It's not much, Leona replied. Tessa looked around the cozy living room and smiled. It's yours. That's everything. Leona had saved slowly, bit by bit from NGO honorariums, speaking engagements and freelance writing. This apartment wasn't about status. It was about space. Her own space. No shared closets. No hidden letters. No bedroom doors that needed knocking before opening. Later that evening she hosted a quiet housewarming. Just Tessa, Malik and 2 other women from the center. Malik walked in holding a potted plant. It's low maintenance. Just like me. Leona laughed. Good. I don't do high-maintenance men anymore. They shared dinner on the floor, no furniture yet. Just laughter, jollof rice and stories about their worst landlords. After dessert, Tessa raised her plastic cup. To healing, she said. And to the woman who taught us all how to do it in style. Everyone clinked cups. Later that night, as Leona stood alone in her kitchen washing plates, she caught her reflection in the window. And for once, she didn't see a woman who had been betrayed. She saw one who survived it, and rebuilt from scratch. The fundraiser at the community center was a huge success. Families danced under string lights, children chased balloons, and vendors donated food and drinks. Leona wore a soft yellow dress, her hair in twists, face glowing from a new piece. She and Malik spent the evening working the raffle table, laughing and nudging each other between tasks. At one point he leaned in and whispered, "You're really bad at folding raffle tickets." She rolled her eyes. And yet I've somehow managed to fold my life back together. He smiled, slow and sincere. That you have. As the night wound down, Malik walked her home. The air was warm and the streets quiet except for the sound of their footsteps. Tonight was beautiful, she said. You made it beautiful, he replied. They reached her building and stood at the bottom step. Malik hesitated. I've been thinking, he began, voice low. You and we've built something easy. Respectful. Safe. Leona looked up at him, her chest suddenly tight. I don't want to ruin that by rushing anything, he continued. But I care about you, Leona. Deeply. And I'd like to build something real, with you. She swallowed. The old Leona might have said yes just to fill the void. The new Leona paused. I don't know if I'm ready for love again, she said softly. Malik nodded. I'm not asking for love tomorrow. Just a chance to grow something honest. Together. She exhaled. Then yes, a chance. I can give. He smiled, then took her hand. Not to possess it, just to hold it. A week later, Leona decided to clean out her last tie box. An old shoe carton filled with scraps of the past. Photos. Receipts. Wedding mock-ups. And at the bottom, a letter. Folded neatly, the envelope was addressed in her own handwriting. To Ty, but really, to myself. She had written it weeks ago in a flurry of heartbreak, then tucked it away, unsure why. She sat on the floor, unfolded it, and read. Ty, I don't know if you ever loved me. I don't know if you loved her more. But I know I loved you, with a kind of loyalty that burned holes through my own boundaries. You broke me in a way I didn't know I could break. But maybe that break was what I needed. Because from those ruins I've rebuilt something stronger. Not for you. Not even because of you. But in spite of you. So here's what I never said. Thank you. For showing me who you are. For freeing me from a future that would have caged me. And for making room for the version of me I had forgotten. I forgive you. But I release you too. Goodbye. Leona, ***. She read it twice. No tears came. Then she stood, walked to the small balcony, and lit a candle in a ceramic bowl. She held the letter above the flame and watched as it curled, blackened, and vanished into smoke. Tessa called from inside, "What are you doing out there?" Leona smiled faintly. "Burning ghosts." That evening, Malik surprised her with takeaway suya and fresh zobo. They sat on the balcony, sharing stories from their childhood. Midway through a story about his failed attempt at joining a church choir, Leona burst out laughing. "You sang?" she gasped. "Don't sound so shocked," he teased. "I was terrible. But I had passion." She laughed harder. "You're lucky I like passionate failures." He grinned. "Then I'm in the right place." Later, as the stars blinked awake, Malik turned to her and asked, "Feeling lighter?" Leona nodded. "I let go of something heavy today." He didn't ask what. He just handed her the last piece of suya. And they sat in quiet understanding. Leona had grown used to peace. Not the absence of noise but the presence of calm. The kind that nestled inside her, slowly replacing the chaos that once filled her every thought. One Saturday afternoon Malik texted. "Wear something comfortable. I'm picking you up at 6. No other details." She smiled and texted back. "You're not the kidnapping type, right? Only your boredom." At exactly 6 p.m. he pulled up in a dusty blue sedan. He stepped out wearing a simple white tee, brown chinos, and that calm smile he always carried. "You ready?" he asked. "I don't know. Am I overdressed for wherever we're going?" He looked at her, braids wrapped in a silk scarf, faded jeans and a sleeveless cotton blouse. "You're perfect." They drove in comfortable silence, windows down, the air filled with the sound of night insects and soft Afro jazz playing through the speakers. After 20 minutes, he turned into a quiet open field behind a hilltop estate. She looked around, puzzled. "Surprise," he said, stepping out. Under a short tree he had set up a simple picnic. A mat, 2 cushions, a small cooler and a portable speaker. Battery lanterns hung from a branch, glowing softly as the sun dipped below the horizon. Leona covered her mouth. "Malik, this is beautiful." "It's not much. It's everything." They sat on the mat. He handed her a paper-wrapped parcel. Inside were soft yam slices, peppered turkey and puff-puff. She raised a brow. "Did you make this?" "I supervised the caterer," he admitted, grinning. "But the juice is mine." She took a sip. Pineapple ginger. Smooth and tangy. They ate, laughed, and talked about everything and nothing. Childhood pranks, favorite meals, the time Malik almost got suspended for writing love letters under a fake name. "Wait," Leona said mid-laugh. "You signed as Mystery Boy?" "Unfortunately." "Did it work?" "Not unless you count detention." She laughed so hard she had to put her drink down. The conversation eventually slowed, like waves pulling back from the shore. Malik leaned back on his arms, eyes fixed on the darkening sky. "You know what I've learned?" "What?" "That love doesn't have to arrive loud. It doesn't have to shout its presence. Sometimes, it just whispers, 'I'm here,' and sits beside you." Leona turned to look at him. Those words struck something deep. A realization. She had spent so many years chasing love that dazzled, that swept her off her feet. But this was grounded, patient, real. "Ty made love feel like fireworks," she said quietly. "But fireworks burn out fast." Malik turned his gaze to her. "I don't want to burn. I want to stay." The breeze carried silence between them, gentle, meaningful. Leona picked at the edge of the mat. "I'm not ready for forever." "I'm not asking for forever," he said. "Just right now. Just real." She looked at him, her eyes soft. "Then you have that." He smiled, then slowly reached for her hand. No urgency. No pressure. Just the silent question. "Can I hold this part of you?" And her fingers answered, "Yes." They sat in the quiet, the sky above blanketed with stars. In the distance a car honked. A child laughed. A dog barked. But around them only stillness. No declarations. No promises. Just 2 people learning how to breathe again, together. The ride home was gentle. Leona leaned her head on the window, watching streetlights pass like soft flickers of memory. Malik hummed to a song she didn't know but liked. He walked her to her door. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For reminding me that love doesn't always come in explosions." He smiled. "Sometimes it arrives with plantain and puff-puff." They shared a quiet laugh. He stepped back, hands in his pockets. "Good night, Leona." "Good night, Malik." She watched him walk to his car, and only when he drove off did she step inside. In her apartment, everything felt still. Oh. She poured herself a glass of water and stood by the window. Below, the city breathed. She touched her heart gently, not expecting anything, just curious. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't ache. It was quiet. It was okay. She was okay. The stage lights were soft but warm, casting a gentle glow on Leona's face. The National Conference Hall in Abuja buzzed with quiet anticipation. Rows of women, young and old, filled the seats. Survivors, students, CEOs, single mothers, dreamers. Leona stood backstage, gripping her speech notes, breathing deeply. "You good?" Malik asked beside her. She nodded. "Nervous, but not afraid." He smiled. "That's growth." A coordinator waved her forward. "You're up." Leona stepped onto the stage. Thunderous applause greeted her. She walked calmly to the podium, eyes scanning the crowd. She didn't wear a power suit. Just a simple white blouse, soft denim trousers and flats. No mask. Just herself. She waited until the room stilled. "Exactly 1 year ago," she began, "I stepped out of a party meant to celebrate me, and walked into a room that broke me." Gasps fluttered across the room. Phones started recording. But Leona wasn't sharing her pain for pity. "I found my fiancé and my best friend, together. Laughing. Comfortable. In love, or something like it. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew collapsed." She paused. No tremble in her voice. No cracks in her tone. "But this isn't a story about betrayal," she continued. "It's about what came after." Heads nodded. A woman in the front wiped her cheek. "I could have curled up in that heartbreak. I almost did. But life kept whispering, 'Get up.' Not because I was brave, but because I had to remember who I was before they told me who to be." Applause swelled again. "I left the city. I returned home. I cried. I doubted myself. I questioned every moment that led up to that betrayal. And slowly I began to rebuild, not just my life but my voice." She looked directly into the camera. "I didn't seek revenge. I chose redemption. I didn't broadcast names. I reclaimed my own. And in the end, I didn't lose anything worth keeping." Another wave of claps. She smiled. "I now speak to women all over the country. Not as a victim, but as proof. Proof that the worst day of your life doesn't have to define you. Sometimes it introduces you to you." A standing ovation began in the third row. Others followed. Leona stepped back from the mic, bowed her head slightly, and walked off stage to the roar of applause echoing behind her. Malik was waiting in the wings. "You didn't just speak," he whispered. "You gave every woman in that room permission to breathe again." She leaned into his embrace. "I did it." "No," he said softly. "You are doing it." Outside the hall, media swarmed politely. "Ms. Leona, will you write a book? Do you regret not naming names? What do you say to women still stuck in toxic relationships?" She smiled gently. "I say, don't wait for rock bottom to become your reason. You're allowed to leave. You're allowed to heal. And you don't need a scandal to make your freedom valid." She climbed into the waiting car with Malik. As they drove away, the city lights passed like gentle reminders of how far she'd come. Later that night, back at her apartment, she lit a vanilla-scented candle and opened her journal one last time. "Dear Leona, you survived. You forgave. You became." She closed the book and slipped it into a drawer. A few weeks later, she hosted a small dinner on her balcony. Tessa brought fruit salad. Malik brought plantains, again. They joked about how he believed plantains could fix anything. "You ever wonder what would have happened if you didn't take that break from the party?" Tessa asked. Leona stared off at the darkening sky. "I'd probably be married to a lie." They all fell silent for a moment. Then Malik leaned over. "Do you regret it? The way it all happened?" She thought carefully. "I regret trusting people who weren't ready for my love. But I don't regret discovering who I was without them." "Cheers to that," Tessa said, raising her glass. They clinked plastic cups under the soft glow of fairy lights. Later, as she washed dishes, her phone buzzed with a new message. From a young girl she'd met during a workshop. "Miss Leona, thank you. Because of you, I walked away from someone who was dimming me. Now I feel brighter." Leona stared at the message, eyes stinging. She replied, "Never let anyone dim your light to comfort their shadow." She set the phone down, wiped her hands and walked to the window. The stars blinked back at her. 1 year later, Leona stood in a recording studio, hosting her first episode of a podcast titled, Unbroken. Today's topic, not every closed door is a loss. She introduced herself, leaned into the mic and spoke with clarity. Sometimes the greatest gift is not getting what you thought you wanted. Because rejection, heartbreak, and betrayal, if you survive them, will introduce you to a version of yourself you didn't know existed. She took a breath. "I found that version of me when I took a break from a party and walked into truth." She paused. "And that truth was the beginning of everything." Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.